friend told me once recently that a lot of people die at 60, but they're not buried until they're 80. And I think his point was you've still got a lot to offer after you, quote unquote, retire.
I think retiring will kill you if you look at the mortality rates. It's pretty crazy.
My dad, he worked up until the last week of his life. He was still consulting with people, and in fact, probably 30 minutes before he passed in the hospital, he turned to me and told me to please call his last consulting client because he wasn't going to be able to finish the engagement.
People are very, very interested in investing in landscaping. So with that opportunity, do you think you would have gone down the same path you went? And again, this is like after the fact, things have changed. You're listening to Landscape Business Growth Lab podcast. I'm your host, Ron McCabe, founder of Everbearing Services. On this podcast, I uncover the landscaping and outdoor living industry's best kept secrets. You'll hear exclusive interviews with industry innovators, discover cutting edge strategies from the fastest growing businesses in the green space. We're also going to explore game-changing technologies that are at the tip of the shears. This is where seasoned landscapers and those who are just breaking ground in the industry grow together. Let's roll out the green carpet. Thanks for listening. Hey everyone, welcome to the Landscape Business Growth Lab podcast. Today's guest is Will Bailey from Avid Landscape. He's been running his company in Edmonds, Washington for over 5 years, and in the industry for over 34 years, and he knows what it takes to build a strong, steady landscape business. Will is also going to share his experience with his late father, Rod Bailey. We're going to talk real strategies, project management, and what it looks like to grow without losing quality. Let's get into it. Will, can you share how you got into landscaping and what it was like working with your dad?
His business was large enough I wasn't working directly with him. I was still living at home with he and my mom, and had quit a job earlier in the day, came home for dinner and announced at the dinner table that I didn't have a job. And I was counseled on the fact that you don't quit ever a job without knowing what your next move was. And then he offered me the opportunity to come work in his mechanic shop, working on equipment and things on the evenings and weekends. So that's where I got my start. I was there for 3 weeks before Human Resources realized I was there. And then I was yanked down to the HR office and interviewed and asked to fill out an application and go through a formal process after the fact. But I mostly then just worked with the operations team and didn't see my dad a whole lot. I think he might have been concerned about nepotism and wanted me to develop my own relationships with people. So that's kind of the way I slid in the back door of things there. I was going to the University of Washington working on a geology degree at the time. Shortly thereafter, switched, on some advice from my dad, to a horticulture degree, and working at a landscape company and a horticulture education at the same time seemed to tie things together nicely for me and sort of simplified my my neural pathway and processes. So that was a nice marriage.
Cool. Hey, what's one story from those days that sticks with you?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work. I spent my summers working in the field, first with enhancement operations and then managing my own maintenance crews for a couple of summers while I was still in school, learning a lot of things about equipment management and equipment maintenance, how things work, how things come together, and then ultimately was offered the chance to take over the company's pesticide applicator license, which I did not want to do, had zero interest in. But it was impressed upon me by Greg McDonald there, our old general manager. My distaste perhaps in wanting to do it would also make me more cautious and careful in how we used chemicals, and that was definitely an approach that we were interested in as a company. And so that was an interesting lesson for me. And I did take that care, and I did really pay attention to what we were doing there, and I think I hope led a good program. So lots of different. I had exposure over many years to a lot of different departments and different aspects of what we did operationally. It was a very good learning experience.
One of the first times I started to work with you, you played a big role helping build one of Seattle's top landscaping companies. Looking back, what did it feel like as far as a turning point in that journey for you?
I worked for my dad's company for 7 years before he sold, to True Green Land Care, which was how they accessed the Seattle market. They bought my dad's business as a platform. I stayed with them for several years, and, I think we'll probably get into that a little bit later, what that kind of transition, looks like, but I had the opportunity ultimately to go out and help start, a business, Signature Landscape Services, which I think is the company you're probably referring to as,
It is.
yeah, I was, there at Signature for 15 years with my partners and, just learned a tremendous amount, and it was, um, an evolution for me, that was, really rewarding. The being tied closely to a number of people, my partners, kept me tied to the business, and perhaps if there's anything looking back on my career, I could say I might regret a bit would be I might have gone out on my own a little earlier had I not felt the kinship and the bond there with those other people. So it's a double-edged sword when you're working in an organization like that. But it was a wonderful experience, and I learned a lot and evolved, from a field operations manager all the way up to general manager of the organization and running all of our field operations and equipment management there. So, yeah, very interesting.
So you got a really good foundation
It
there.
was an excellent time. You sort of remember all of the good times, which is probably the thing that allows us to go forward in our careers and not focus on the stressful or bad things. But yeah, it was a good experience.
And as far as you're not going to something new, I always say you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Right.
So I think you did just great. And, I know both you and your business partner at Avid, and I thought it was pretty interesting when that happened because you guys are both different people and have
hmm
different skills. So, kind of, what made you decide to step into ownership with Avid Landscape, and did your experience at UW influence how you lead?
As we were nearing the end of Signature's evolution before we ultimately sold that business so that my partners could exercise their value from the enterprise and retire. I could see the writing on the wall. I knew that we were going to probably be brokering the business, and I wanted to put myself in the best position going forward. So I went back to UW. I had gotten a degree in urban forestry there many years ago, but I went back for a year for their executive development program, which exposes you to all of the professors and concepts of an MBA, but in a 1 year program instead of a 3 or 4 year program. No tests, so it's more just learning a language really, and learning how to operate from a financial standpoint and how to lead, how to make effective leadership decisions, and so that was fantastic. It really did help me in the time that I spent at Monarch. Monarch was the business that we sold Signature to. And I worked with that organization for 4 years, and that certainly helped me develop my leadership skills and help them run their Western Washington operations for 4 years before I left. So that was fantastic. And ultimately was just another piece that made me feel super confident in my ability to go run my own business after that point. So
One of my most cherished relationships in the landscaping business, and somebody who I really is kind of a legend in our industry, is your dad. Could you share a bit about your dad, Rod Bailey, and kind of what made him so respected in the industry?
yeah, thanks, Ron. He was a fantastic influence on me, obviously, my whole life, and I feel very blessed to have had a very close relationship with him my whole life, which was wonderful. He was a Stanford MBA grad, and I think was more interested in growing small business than he was what the business itself was. And he and several friends started a small business growth generating company before they had anything else. And his company, Evergreen Services Corporation in Bellevue, was actually the first company they bought. And his other two partners were tasked with going out and finding similar businesses to buy and grow themselves, and with varying degrees of success because
Yeah.
my dad. But he ran Signature for. I'm sorry, he ran Evergreen Services for 32 years and sold it ultimately in 1998. And I think had a very successful career. He was very interested in financial management, building
Hmm.
budgets, and understanding how to what the levers were and how to manage a business through financial understanding. And I think that's probably the thing that made him most exceptional, other than just his character. He brought a broad understanding of financial management to what had been kind of a fledgling industry and, a little bit of a, not super sophisticated. And,
What do
he
you mean, like people winging it,
well,
basically?
yeah, the chuck in a truck, throw a logo on a door, and go buy a mower and start mowing people's lawns. It's a low barrier to entry, industry, as we know, and, distinguishing yourself, requires a high degree of professionalism, strong communication, ability to organize yourself, and ability to manage your business, from a strong financial position, and those were things that I think that he talked a lot about. Um, he was one of the founding members of WALP, the Washington Association of Landscape Professionals here in Washington, back in 1983, 84, and, solely because he wanted to bring the rest of the industry up so that the industry could charge more for its services and gain, a higher degree of visibility in the marketplace with its customers, and I think he was largely successful with that, though, it still feels like we're not able to charge the rates we ought to be able to charge for the level of professionalism and the quality we put out there. But yeah, that's his lasting legacy, I think, and his mark.
I really agree with you. So one of the things that I've had the privilege of seeing is during his consulting phase when he was coaching other landscaping businesses on how to do these things. If you look at all the businesses he worked with, they're some of the most successful businesses in Oregon and Washington.
He had clients all across the country. He had, a client for a number of years in Lexington, Kentucky, and gosh, just all over the place. I think it was the part of his career that he enjoyed the most, would initially get in and, help people review their books, understand their financing, set up their chart of accounts, commensurate with the rest of the industry so that they could start benchmarking and understanding how they were performing in certain categories. And so therefore understand more quickly where were the areas they could, roll the dial faster, to find improvement on the bottom line. And then ultimately, I think what a lot of people were interested in talking with him about was how to sort of dress the bell for the ball, if you will, how to prepare their business for sale or understand even what the value, of the business was that they had created. So he was passionate about that.
When you look at, the resources out there today and the different like EOS and the lean operating system, all these different resources that landscaping businesses have today. When your dad was doing it, he was really, a pioneer. Like the discipline and the thoughts he had, it's wild, but at the time was pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, yeah. It was,
So
it was great, but it allowed him, I think, a pulpit to work from, if you will, and made him highly recognized and well known in the marketplace, obviously, yeah.
is there a lesson or value from your dad that you try to keep alive in how you run your business?
Personal integrity just is something you learn by example when you're around, somebody like him, and I was blessed to have somebody who always did what he said he was gonna do, and, my, wife, occasionally takes me to task or laughs at me as though I'm a Boy Scout, because I will do what I said I was going to do, even if it's at my own peril. Um, and I just don't back away from things. And so I definitely got that from him, that sense of character. I think understanding the importance of, managing your financing, how to do financial management was a big one. Back, at Evergreen, I think a lot of the people that were working for him had come out of community college programs with a horticulture degree and just wanted to go out and landscape and work with plants and be outside. They were a little taken aback when he would take everybody into a classroom for 2 or 3 days a year, and teach a financial management seminar. And, he put together basically his own textbook and I'm looking back at my bookcase to see if I still got it. I think I do. It was in a green hardcover folder, called Financial Management, and he would walk everybody, through how to use that kind of information to run your business, and it was fantastic, and most of those people, I think, went better to far stronger careers than they otherwise might have expected, because of that. I hope that they would feel that way, so, yeah.
If you had to describe Rod's biggest impact in one story or example, what would you tell? Would it be what you just said, or do you have another idea of what that might be.
You know, what I hear, he passed away recently, as many people may know, in
Huge loss.
Father's Day of this year, actually, and we held a memorial for him a month or so ago, and there were a lot of people that came. And what I heard from a lot of people was that he would take time with them. That when he saw them at a conference or at a meeting, he would sit down with them and ask them questions about themselves and their lives, and remember their spouses and their kids, and really sit and listen to what they had to say, and not just wait for his turn to talk. And so I think a lot of people felt genuinely connected to him from that, and that was really nice to hear from people.
Well, kind of shifting a little bit, again, you're one of the rare people that have experienced this. I think unfortunately or fortunately, it's becoming less rare. A lot of people experience business acquisitions from the outside, but you've been through it yourself. What was it really like having your last company bought?
It was an exciting process. I had 4 partners in that business, and I was a minority owner, and, I was interested in continuing the business myself, before we actually brokered it for sale, and, I went out to the Small Business Administration and, developed a relationship with a lender and began to understand what they could and could not do for me, and unfortunately, their loan limits did not allow me to buy out 100% of all 4 partners, and so one of those partners would have had to stay in with me in order to, help me take the business forward, and, they none of them were in a position to do that, unfortunately. One of them's come back to me 3 times since then and told me that he regrets that decision, and I wanna
Wow.
take him out back and, lash him with a whip, but, so that was a little frustrating because I really was passionate about Signature and what we were doing there, and, you know, through the brokering process, we met a number of interested parties. It's an interesting process for those who have not done it. A broker will develop essentially what amounts to a real estate flyer for your business. They call it the book. And the book will consist of all kinds of information about the market in which you are operating, who your competitors are, a high level view of the types of customers and the geographic range of the customers, the people who are working for you, what's happening with the growth of the market, speculation about the overall size of the market for the industry that you're in, all kinds of information. And they put that out there to, private equity firms and investors who they think might be interested. And it's their job to know those people. So they come in, they start asking questions, they want to do interviews, and you narrow it down. And we spent a considerable amount of time with 4 or 5 different parties. They came into town. You spend a day or so with them, showing them some things and reviewing your business. It's kind of like inviting people over to your house for a dinner party. You start looking at your business in a different way, and you see the dirty little corners and the rug that needs to be vacuumed that you didn't think was so important before, and it makes you stand up a little straighter. But it was a fun process, and the partner that we ultimately selected, it occurred to me at the end was not entirely different than it probably would have been if I'd borrowed money from a bank to buy the business myself. Um, he was a very thoughtful person and spent a lot of time with me. I learned a ton from him, and so it was very fascinating from that perspective. I rolled my ownership interest over into that new venture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was an interesting process as well, developing an employment contract and then figuring out how you're going to go forward in operating the business. And it was eye opening, very interesting, and ultimately a lot of fun, really. I came into the business with his thoughts, and we began to understand how the business might continue to grow through further acquisition and trying to find key people to replace some of the functionality of my exiting partners. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I could picture where the questions could go there. I mean, I know that, one of the things we're doing here is probably listening to Will talk and not Ron, but
Well, that's the whole goal here. Like,
yeah.
you're the one with the unique experiences and knowledge.
My, advice for anybody who is thinking about selling their business to somebody else, most buyers that are gonna look at your business, unless they have a real passion for what you do, and not all of them do, some of them are looking for a financial vehicle that is a safe, secure place to park some money and
Right.
give them a growth opportunity. And they need an operating partner who's going to stick around and is the de facto head of that business after the transaction. That was my role. And so you're not always exiting as a selling owner. That buyer may ask you to stick around for a year, 2 years, 6 months, kind of depending on what their objectives are. And I think you've got to be prepared to do that. And that can be a real challenge for some people. Maybe more so than it was for me because I was in a minority ownership position and I was used to working with 4 partners. When we made decisions, over the 15 years that we ran the business, we did it together. And if somebody had a disagreement, we sat down and we hashed it out and made decisions together and never came to a point where we voted shares um, over the and did significant things over the objections of one of the partners. And so when I went into partnership with the buyer of our company, I was already used to that kind of thing. More closely held businesses that where there's just one owner. And that one owner might be surviving the deal, might find it a bit more challenging because they're not used to you having to involve other people in that decision making process. And you absolutely are going to do that after that.
Right.
That's something to be thoughtful about. And I think you need to do a lot of diligence around understanding what the motives are of the buyer, how much leeway you're going to have. If they're purely a financial buyer and don't know much about your industry, you are going to become the operating partner for them. And you're going to have to spend a fair amount of time educating the capital about what the industry looks like, the seasonality in the marketplace, when things are up, when things are down, what to expect, how cash is going to move through the business, all kinds of different things like that. And that may be something they're not used to. If that financial partner already has an operating partner, if they've bought other businesses before and you are being absorbed into that operation, then you will find yourself making decisions or having decisions move for you where you have not been in that realm for some time. And that can be very uncomfortable for some owners. So I think you want to have an opportunity to talk in that situation. You want to have an opportunity to talk with other business owners they have bought before you make that decision and learn what their experience has been like and what kind of changes they've been asked to make within their business. We are a labor intensive business, and so we're the people management business.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of people in these operations, and you spend any length of time with them, you develop relationships with them, and you get pretty close. And somebody else thinks they may know better and is asking you to um, change those people's experience, and you are the figurehead that's being asked to communicate those changes. That that's a huge challenge. And so I think you just want to be as clear as you can be about what you might expect from them in terms of the types of changes they see as integral to the operation.
Hey, this is a question that just came to me out of left field as you were talking about your experience. If you don't have anything to say, that's fine. But you're talking about going to the SBA and not being able to, buy your partners out. So what's going on now? You may not fully be aware, or you may be very aware. Private equity's gotten the memo about landscaping, and people are getting 5 to 8 times multiples, which is crazy on revenue. People are very, very interested in investing in landscaping. So with that opportunity, do you think you would have gone down the same path you went? And again, this is like after the fact, things have changed,
Yeah,
pure speculation.
I'm having an awful lot of fun now here at Avid because we are entirely self-funded and not really um, putting together budgets, pro formas, profit and loss statements and balance sheets for our bankers because we were fortunate enough to be able to act as our own. And so that kind of autonomy is really wonderful in the business. Um, But if you do get into the private equity arena, particularly as the business gets larger, you get exposed to an awful lot of banking, and finance and understanding financial management and planning at a level that you may not when you're working in a small, closely held business. And that was absolutely fascinating to me. I learned so much from my time, at Monarch after we sold Signature there, just in, the annualized audit processes and in thinking about, labor and expenses and reforecasting, as the market may change and testing ideas, on a platform that size, you're exposed with a lot of, to a lot of very intelligent, thoughtful people who, have a lot of different ideas, and, you can test those ideas out to a certain extent in a way that you might not feel comfortable doing in a smaller business. And so that was fascinating for me and just another part of my evolution. So it's different working with private equity. We Monarch is held by private equity. And they are looking for growth in the value of the enterprise and the company, and they're looking for a decently solid return on the investment on an annual basis. It pushes you to think about things and do things that you may not if you don't otherwise have to. So it's an interesting experience also.
Cool. And, kind of based on that evolution, how is going through that acquisition and the follow-on experience changed the way you approach leading Avid Landscape now?
It's tough to say how your collective experience leads to how you're managing now.
Right.
I do feel that it is highly valuable to involve, your employees in decision making around appropriately, around things within the business, as much as you possibly can. Going through an annual strategic planning process, producing, financials on a monthly basis and, reviewing them compared to the way you budgeted to evaluate performance. And as I said before, look at those levers, see what can be pulled and what can be changed to improve the experience, and certainly celebrate the successes along the way. Can be hugely morale building and educational for your employees too. So it's a pretty collaborative experience, I hope, for the people here that I am working with. I don't sit around. My wife will tell you that I'm a horrible teacher. But I'm aware that I have a lot to share, and I'm excited to do that. So, I'm excited to be around people that ask a lot of questions and are curious and, push me to a greater level of understanding. So, the collaboration, and the closeness that I feel with my staff here, I think, is one of the things that I try and foster and one of the things that I enjoy the most about what I'm currently doing.
With over 34 years experience, a depth of experience that's quite impressive. When you look at landscaping today, what excites you about where the industry is going and headed right now?
The use of technology to make our lives better, is pretty impressive. I remember, at Signature, a lot of years managing the business on QuickBooks and Excel spreadsheets, and um, we had some pretty damn sophisticated Excel spreadsheets, but uh, they can only do so much, and it's easy for details to fall through the cracks, and particularly in a service delivery business, the seasonal non-routine services, like if you're going to add mulch at the entrance to an HOA once a year in February, it's real easy to let that slip through and forget. And with the advent of technology, you've got these management software systems that are coming in now. With we could name any number of them, but we invested in one very early, and it is astounding to me. I was very worried about the cost initially.
Which solution?
We went with Aspire,
Oh, okay. I've heard great things about them.
which was an expensive solution for a small business in the $2 million range.
I
But
understand that's the case.
yeah, I knew from experience that it would scale with the business much better than some of the other options that were out there. There are some other options that I think are probably very good as well. We looked at a number of them. And it was a close call for us. Ultimately, what pushed it over the top for me there was that I knew that it would scale to just about any size business. You've got businesses in the U.S. that I think are operating under Aspire from probably anywhere from, a half a million cleanup to well over $1 billion in annualized revenue. So that's not an issue. The advent of technology and how useful it is in routing your crews, managing the full customer experience process from the first point of contact through the final invoice, contract management, contract renewal. It's impressive. What it's allowed us to do is grow fairly significantly without adding administrative staff. Where, in the past, we probably would have had at least one administrative assistant and probably two by now. We don't have to have those people because of that software package, and so then the cost seems quite reasonable at that point and has been a good value. So there are other things that have come in that integrate well with that software platform. Things that allow us to manage our equipment and truck assets, all kinds of things that have integration with the software and just help us manage things better. So technology, software technology in particular, is impressive in what it's helped us do.
Kind of a closing question, based on your experience, for business owners that are listening who are facing some big changes like succession or selling, what's the one thing you wish you'd known ahead of time?
Well, first of all, if anybody's out there considering selling their business and wants to take me to lunch, I'm always happy to offer up some health advice or just some thoughts. So please do reach out. It is a real pleasure to own and operate and manage your own business. And as we've talked about with the closeness, the relationships that develop with employees, and you're building a legacy in some points at some point, and you don't want to see that legacy destroyed, and you don't want to see the lives of the people that you care about destroyed. And so I think it's important to take some time in your thought process to think about what are my options for um, getting some value out of this business to help fund my retirement, whatever your reasons may be for sale. There are more options than just selling your business to an outside entity. You can consider the ESOP option, which is an employee stock option plan. It is a bit more complicated than I will present, but you can essentially start a employee vesting program. You go to the bank. You personally have to guarantee the loan typically, but you loan it to, gosh, what's the word? An ownership program, an entity that you create, and you vest your employees in that entity, and then you have that entity buy the business from you. So you can get cash out of the business that way and invest your employees in it. You need to be confident in the team you're leaving behind to be able to run that business without you.
Right.
Alternatively, be willing to step back in and help them manage the business. Alternatively, if you've got a good team, you may be able to step away from the business for several weeks out of each month and let them continue to run it, but remain in control. A friend told me once recently that a lot of people die at 60, but they're not buried until they're 80. And I think his point was you've still got a lot to offer after you quote unquote retire. And so I think some people sell their businesses, at 60, 65, 70, and find themselves twiddling their thumbs and thinking, my God, this thing that I hung my hat on and I built for 20 or 30 years is no longer mine. And I think that's traumatic and difficult for a lot of people. And so I think you need to be considerate of that and think about other options than just cashing in and selling your business to somebody else. There are other options out there, and I encourage people to consider those.
I think retiring will kill you if you look at the mortality rates. It's pretty crazy.
My dad, oh Lord, he worked up until the last week of his life. He was still consulting with people, and in fact, probably 30 minutes before he passed in the hospital, he turned to me and told me to please call his last consulting client because he wasn't going to be able to finish the engagement. And I'm not kidding. And he absolutely loved it. And to your point, what you were just saying about it, it gives us purpose and keeps us alive. It kept him mentally strong straight to the end. He never lost his mental faculty and was able to carry conversation and remember things. He fell into that trap of, retelling the old stories 3 times, like we all probably will. But his ability to recall people, recall stories, and think about things, and was still very sharp right up until the end. So, yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I've always told you that I've been impressed with your dad's mental acuity. I
yeah,
was relating before this podcast with one of my copywriters the story of teaching him keyword research or subject matter research. So for what I do, that's often a very difficult process to teach somebody that, and it could take weeks or months for them really to get it. And I still, and I think I've told you this is a repeat of a story, but I'm still completely blown away at this guy that at the time was, well north of 70, didn't come up in the technological world.
yeah,
He got keyword research in like an hour and a half.
yeah. He was an analytical thinker. So, yep,
Yeah, no, it's so incredible. I'm so grateful. I know others are going to be grateful for the insights you provided.
yeah. It's a fun conversation. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, we really appreciate having you here. Anyway, that's it for today's episode. Uh, Big thanks to you, Will Bailey from Avid Landscape, for joining us. Everyone else, if you found this helpful, share it with a friend, leave a quick review, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. That's a wrap on today's episode of Landscape Business Growth Lab podcast. I hope you picked up some fresh ideas to help your business grow. Remember, growth doesn't happen overnight. It takes the right tools, strategies, and consistent cultivation. If you found value in today's show, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. Share this episode with a fellow green industry professional who's ready to level up. For more resources, show notes, and exclusive content, visit us at landscapebusinessgrowthlab.com. And if you want to connect directly, you can find me at Everbearing Services. Until next time, I'm Ron McCabe, reminding you to keep your tools sharp and your mindset sharper. Now get out there and grow something great.